I really grateful you are in our project, Challenges of Source Evaluation in Science and Correlated Areas. I prepared some questions and I'm really interested to know your expert opinion about it. The first question is, what sources of information are trustworthy? Which sources scientists should use in his scientific work, in your opinion?
That's very, very difficult to answer. It's easier to say which sources of information are not trustworthy. But if you go onto Facebook and someone is talking about the American election was stolen, you don't trust that source. You need to trust sources which seem to have information, and information which you can trust.
Thank you so much. What are the best ways to distinguish objective information and credible sources from the fake one?
Well, it sounds like you're wanting some magic formula where you can wash the information, and if it comes up red, it's genuine, and if it comes up blue, it's not genuine, or whatever. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Sometimes you have to study the information, investigate the information, test the information before you can decide whether you're going to trust it or not. But as I say, there are certain sources of information you just know you can't trust, because those sources have a history of inventing things or misunderstanding things and so on.
When you work, how you understand this information is really objective or it's not truly one? In your experience, what you use or something?
No, there's no method. You just have to look at it and read it and test it in your mind, read what other people say about the information and so on. Look, some of the best scientists in the world at this moment are looking for a vaccine for COVID-19. They come up with ideas. They don't know whether they themselves can trust their ideas until they've tested them, until others have tested them, and so on. There's no shortcut in the sciences.
Understand. Thank you so much. What is the more important, the content of the scientific work or the way it is structured? How do you think?
I'm not sure of this. It's a very, very good question. It's a very profound question. But sometimes devising a method for finding out information can be more important than the information which you find out. Some information is vitally important. With the vaccine, that's so important. Other scientific papers are on matters which are very, very small or trivial. And you just need to be able to trust and discover.
Thank you. One more question is, why is the way or language of the scientific pieces so complicated for the public and hard to understand? Should I be like that, like a coded message?
Well, again, you can't generalize. There are certain parts of the sciences, for instance, physics, which need a specialized vocabulary, because the physicists are looking at things, looking at topics, entities, which ordinary people don't talk about. And so there's no words in ordinary language for those things. In the social sciences, it can be very different, because the subject matter of the social sciences is by and large the ordinary world. And if you try and understand the ordinary world in specialized language which ordinary people don't understand, you will often misunderstand what is happening in the ordinary world. And that's why I wrote my book, Learn to Write Badly, because there's an ethos in the social sciences that you need big words. You need to translate the actions of people into things, into processes which don't contain information about people. And for me, that is disastrous, and it's making things very complicated, having the surface of science without its depth.
Thank you so much. Does the authority of a scientist guarantee the accuracy of scientific information?
No, no. There are certain fields where scientists should be listened to, but many scientists who may be very, very clever in one field, because they have active minds, go into another field where they're not so good. If you went back to a few hundred years ago, Thomas Hobbes, the English philosopher, was thought to be one of the greatest minds of his time. And he was fascinated by mathematics and particularly geometry. But although he was a great political theorist, a great philosopher, he was rather a second-rate mathematician and geometer, and he kept getting it wrong. So we all need to be a bit modest. And there are plenty of examples of this, and there are even more examples in the contemporary academic world, particularly in the social sciences, of figures who hold preeminent positions, are respected by so many other social scientists. But if you look carefully at their ideas, if you try and translate the big words into small words, the ideas just evaporate.
Thank you.
So those are not the people to respect.
It's true. It's true. Yes.
And I'm not going to name names today.
No, of course, yes, but it's really important to understand that if you write something, your work should speak much more about you and content of this work, not your personality.
Oh, of course, yes. And the work may not be good enough. Well, none of us do work to the standard which we might aspire. All of us produce human work, which means it's not perfect.
In your opinion, what shapes the scientist?
What shapes the scientist?
Yes.
You mean on a personal level or
on a professional level? It means who is the scientist, how it should look, or what he should do that people really can see him and say, really, it's truly scientist.
First of all, I would correct one thing you said when you said how he is, what he should do. Nowadays, we live in a world where women scientists are often overlooked. And so we should be careful of our language. And this is general. There can be no academic discipline, whether it's science or arts, without it being written. And we need to be careful, above all, with our words, how we use the words, whether we're using them consistently, whether we're using them loosely or carefully. And I think that good academic work, whether we call it science or not, must be based on clear writing and considered writing, and in my areas for social sciences, as clear and simple and non-technical as possible. But that's not true for natural sciences.
Of course, when I spoke about scientists, I mean the objective material. Doesn't matter if a man or woman, because
I know, I was just being...
Yes, of course, you're right about it. Yeah, thank you so much. This is the question what I prepare, but maybe you want to add something from the viewpoint of the sociology, from the viewpoint of your research about challenges of sources. Maybe you want to add something to our topic and about the problems, what you met in your experience, in your practice, when you wrote the book about it also.
Yes, one thing which I would add is the way in which postgraduates are trained. And the academic world at the moment is very, very divided. And those who train postgraduates want to train them often in their own image as followers in their particular branch of the academic world and with their particular theory and their particular take. And in the social sciences, this also means that they should use these words and not those words, because if you use those words, they're like a flag which says you're a member of that group. And if you use our words, then you can become a member of our group. And this basically is not a good attitude for critical thinking, for thinking originally. We are training young people not to think, or what a very great sociologist of more than 100 years ago, we're training them to have trained incapacity. It's a narrowness.